Have you ever stopped to think about which Squid Game challenge was the most lethal? Because I've definitely been curious. And that's exactly what we'll be exploring in today's video. I'm going to rank every single game from the Squid Game series based on how tough they were to survive. Looking at more than just body counts or percentages, we'll take into account the psychological pressure, mechanics of the game, and even external factors that influenced the outcome. Let's kick things off with what I consider the least deadly challenge. Red light, green light from Season 2. This time, Hunt really took the reins and kept things under control. His bizarre outburst at the beginning might have seemed unhinged, but it actually helped. People listened, even if reluctantly, and thanks to that, a lot more made it out alive. Only 91 players were eliminated, giving this round a survival rate of about 80%, or a death rate of 19.96%. That's a huge improvement, and it set a very different tone compared to the original version of the game. Now, if you think Gi-hun didn't make a difference, consider this. In Season 1's red light, green light, 255 people were wiped out. That's a difference of 164 lives, and I wouldn't be surprised if that sparked some concern from the front man. It's one of the few times we see how much influence a single player's mindset can have on a large group. Up next is the six-legged race from Season 2, the one that looked like a death trap, but turned out to be more forgiving than expected. Originally, director Hwang Dong-hyuk wanted a 10-minute time limit, but players were clearing it way too easily behind the scenes, so he cut the time in half. Even so, the ability for players to choose which game to tackle likely improved survival odds. Out of the 82 teams that competed, 22 failed, resulting in 110 deaths and a 30.14% mortality rate. Way lower than I assumed before crunching the numbers. It's a great example of how perception and actual difficulty don't always match up in the series. Coming in third is the first ever red light, green light. Despite its shocking death toll, it had a survival rate of over 50%, with a death rate of 44.08%. What really killed people here wasn't the game itself, it was the shock factor. Most players panicked the moment they realized the stakes were real. Once it clicked that following the rules meant you lived, it actually became manageable. There was plenty of time to make it across without rushing. Plus, after that initial chaos, players began to adapt more to the reality they were facing. Continuing with the ranking, I'd say the next least deadly challenge was the Dalgona game. Among all the shapes, the triangle and the star offered a big advantage thanks to their straight lines and clear edges. What also made a difference was Gi-hun's clever trick, licking the candy, which quickly caught on. Once people saw it worked, they started copying him, and that definitely improved their odds. The key to surviving this round was staying calm. If you didn't panic or rush the moment the clock started, you had a solid shot at getting through. Altogether, 80 players failed this task, which means the death rate sat at about 42.78%, making it one of the more manageable games, if you kept a cool head. Now let's talk about the games that were practically coin tosses, ones with 50-50 survival odds. This middle ground is where things get interesting, because surviving didn't just depend on skill or instinct, but also a heavy dose of unpredictability. First, the final Squid Game from Season 1. Honestly, I think it was less dangerous than Tug of War. Why? Because it was one-on-one. Sure, it was brutal in the show, but technically you didn't even need to kill your opponent. The dramatic fight was added for effect. The smart move? Rush to the goal before your opponent can stop you. The mental strain here was immense, but the mechanics were simple. Then we've got Tug of War. The reason this one ranks higher on the danger scale is because it relied heavily on who you were grouped with. Imagine picking 4 women at random and going up against a brute force team. You'd be doomed. Plus, luck played a big role in the random matchups. The tension was sky high in this round, and the margin for error was razor thin. If you didn't have good synergy with your team, it was game over. Next, there's the marble game. This one should have been a 50-50 game by design, but it wasn't. Out of 38 participants, only 17 moved on. Maybe they ran out of time. Maybe they couldn't bear to betray their partner. Or maybe they just didn't bet smartly when time was running out. Whatever the case, the death rate here was 55.26%. This round really highlighted how emotional attachment could cloud judgment in high-stakes situations. Following that is the chaotic mess known as the Mingle Game. This one had a 60.78% death rate with 155 players eliminated. On paper, it looked like a breeze. In practice, it was bedlam. No one knew what to do, who to trust, or where to go. The team numbers were announced on the fly, the timer was ridiculously short, and panic set in fast. Add in multiple rounds, and it just kept getting harder to survive. You needed sharp instincts and cold logic to have any chance in this game, and even then, it was a gamble. And finally, we arrive at the deadliest challenge of them all, the infamous glass bridge. I think we can all agree this was pure madness. From the start, it was built entirely on luck. Player 1 had zero chance, and when the glassmaker figured out the trick, the organizers literally turned off the lights mid-game. That whole fair chance message they pushed all season? Gone in an instant. The rules were bent just to keep the VIPs entertained. Even players who picked the highest numbers weren't safe. One wrong move, someone freezing in front of you or running out of time, and you were finished. Zabiuk's death was the ultimate proof that surviving the game didn't guarantee anything. The death rate here? A staggering 81.25%. Even watching it unfold was stressful. Imagine actually standing on that glass. So there it is. Every Squid Game ranked by how survivable it really was. Let me know which one you think you could make it through. And if you enjoyed the breakdown, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more Squid Game content.